to another episode of Pretty Brilliant. My name is Brittany Nicole. I'm a neurolinguistics expert. I study the relationship between language, the nervous system, and behavior. And on this channel, we talk about reprogramming your mind to level up your life. Now, one thing I just want to say, because I just saw this, my channel has officially hit 2,000 subscribers, and I'm so excited about that. I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me. So I'm like extra smiley and extra giddy right now. I want to get into the lesson, what I'm here to talk about, but I just can't stop cheesing about that. I can't stop cheesing about that because it's been a long journey for me. And in this video, I actually want to talk about my journey a little bit. I am talking about how I have gotten back in touch with my intuition. I have a lot that I want to share with you in this episode, but I also have something for you that I won't be sharing until the end, and you better not fast forward, okay? Stay for the whole thing and you'll get the goodies at the end. In most of my videos, I have my teacher hat on, I have my course creator hat on, and I'm teaching from a instructional place. And this is going to be a lot more personal. Also, I got my dogs with me, okay? So if you hear a little scratchy, this and that's these two, that's my pack in the background, okay? So just deal with it. I'm also dealing with it because somebody just farted and it smells like bologna. That was you, wasn't it? Anyway, intuition. Intuition is one of those things that I feel like is hard to define. And that's annoying for me as a linguist because I live to define shit. It's difficult for me to accept the assigned meaning of things. Part of that has to do with my background, which I've talked about in other videos on, being given a definition for reality and being given context for reality, and then later discovering that that's not reality at all. So the position that I take now when it comes to language is I have to come to understand and experience something for myself in my own mind, in my own body, to feel like I know what that word really means and to have a relationship with that word. So before I was at the place where I am at now, where I could define intuition in my own way, I couldn't relate to that word. A couple of years ago, and I want to say this was maybe around age 30 for me. A lot of things were going on in my life where I was trying to understand, what does it really mean to be a woman? I know what I've been told being a woman means. I know the explanations and the expectations that I have been given and that have been placed on my womanness, but I no longer agree with that. So I'm trying to understand this concept for myself. I'm trying to define this concept for myself. And maybe that's you. Maybe you relate to that. And many of us, in our search for answers, we go to places like YouTube, we go to social media, we go to other people and other stories to find mirrors and muses and mentors to see ourselves in. And at the time when I was doing that, all of the conversation around womanness and femininity was this light and love shit that I just didn't resonate. Women wear these colors, and this is what feminine energy is, and this is what a high value woman is, and women are soft, and women are this, and women are that. And I tried, at that time I was trying on, I felt like I was cosplaying femininity according to what I was being given as, this is what a valuable woman is like. This is what she looks like. This is what she acts like. And if you act and look like this, then you will be treated a certain way. And I was attracted to that at the time because I was not being treated as if I were a high value woman. Honestly, the real question I was asking myself is, why am I not good enough to be treated well? Now, 35-year-old Brittany knows that that was not the right question for me to be asking myself at that time. But 30-year-old Brittany did not know that yet. She didn't see that yet. And so I was looking for other examples of femininity and specifically intuition, but I found nothing that looked and felt like me. I have a lot of gripes with the conversation around masculine and feminine energy. I don't like those words. I don't like those words at all. And I might be stepping on some toes with this one, but we just gonna step on, okay? Put some shoes on. Because for me, I understand the phenomenon of the different energies. And as someone who has become sensitive to energy now, I can see how those energies move in the world differently, how they show up in our life differently. But feminine and masculine to me don't explain what the energies do. And when we try to place a gender on top of a rhythm, which is how I perceive those energies, we're not really allowing the true story of the energy to be told. And so when I was looking to those examples of what a woman is, what is femininity, what is feminine intuition, I felt excluded because in those stories, it always left out the part of me that would be called masculine in our current lexicon, as if being a logical, disciplined, assertive, decisive woman was not feminine. So, my current definition of intuition, and I'm going to call this a working definition because 40-year-old Brittany might think something totally different, but I think this is pretty open enough and exact enough to mature. And I define it as the voice of my internal algorithm. The reason I'm landing on that definition is because your nervous system is always observing, is always scanning your environment, is always learning. Your subconscious has so much information and so much data that you could not possibly be aware of all of the things you actually already know. Because if you knew how much information you were actually consuming at all times, you would not be able to function as a singular human being. And so I think algorithm is a fitting analogy slash mechanism because an algorithm is a patterned and filtered logic system. Depending on your current relationship with your intuition, you might not be ready to believe me when I tell you that you probably already know the answers to things that you don't think you know the answers to. And I'm gonna let you have that because I was in that seat. And I remember when one of my mentors was teaching me about curating and cultivating my own intuition. And she was like, you already know. I'm trying to tell you, you already know. There's just all this shit in the way of your knowing. And so you haven't given yourself permission to know what you know. If you don't believe me, you don't have to. Set a reminder on your calendar for a year from now to rewatch this video, because then you'll be like, oh, she wasn't kidding. And I'm not. Training your intuition is less about training your intuition and more about forgetting all of the things that make you believe you can't trust your knowing. So now that I've given you my definition for what intuition is, I want to kind of walk you through my story of how it began to develop and sharpen. I've talked on some of my other episodes about my history with being in an abusive relationship. If you want some context on that, you can check out some of my earlier episodes. You can also get a copy of my book, Go Love Yourself, which is available on Amazon. I'm not going to go in too much detail about that now, but I did want to touch on that because a big turning point for me was my divorce. I don't love revisiting this. And it's kind of difficult to discuss it. And when I try to discuss it, even now, my brain is like, we don't want to do that. And I get a little blurry. Like the memories are like, nope, we don't want to open those files. But what I will say is I can see now that my intuition was like peeking its head through in those moments where I was away from him. If I went on a trip by myself, suddenly my thinking was completely clear. If we'd have an argument and I'm sharing space, I'm confused about whether he did something wrong or if I did something wrong or who's, what's up and what's down. But as soon as I take space, then I can see clearly. That's what it feels like to be in an abusive relationship, because when you are someone who doesn't have a strong core, and you have somebody who is actively trying to convince you that their version of reality is the only one that's accurate, you're always like in between worlds. And so when I could be in my own world, then I could think clearly. When I finally left, not only did my thinking clear and my thinking ability improve exponentially, my autoimmune disorder that I had been struggling with, I wasn't struggling with anymore. My gut issues, my lactose intolerance that I had the entire time that I was married, like me and Gruyere became best friends. I wasn't having gastrointestinal issues anymore. And my body became a lot more sensitive to stimulation and subtle data that it was numb to when I was in an unsafe environment. Your body will make decisions for you based on the environment you're in to determine how much information that you can handle and survive. And while I was in a situation where I'm actively being degraded, I'm actively being gaslighted, my body's like, all right, we need to turn down your ability to sense and feel so that you can stay alive. And I'm very grateful to my body for that, because if I was fully aware and fully sensing everything that I experienced at the time, I don't think that I would be at like a clean and sane place today. My next level up in my intuition was actually when I quit my job and started my business. Now, I do want to say, don't hear that quitting your job and starting a business is easy and that's why my mental ability improved, because that shit ain't easy. Like I think that starting your own business is the most intense shadow work project that you could ever do on your soul. And so that actually is part of the reason why I began to be able to hear my inner voice better, is because I'm spending more time in my thoughts, confronting myself, dealing with my fear, dealing with, all of the things that I didn't necessarily have to confront. And also, um, when you are in the early stages of your business, it's like a baby. Like you are nursing that business day and night. In your dreams, you nursing the business. So I ended up spending a lot of time in my own thoughts, in my own field, working on my mission, focused on my things, rather than being with other people. I had actually no idea how much that was going to change me, because I would find myself in environments where I used to feel at home, where I used to feel comfortable, where I used to enjoy the space that I was in, and I no longer fit in. And I no longer enjoyed the things that I used to enjoy. You really do go through several identity shifts and ego deaths during the process of starting a business. And in that process, even though it is excruciating, it's a beautiful kind of excruciation, because I was becoming a more authentic version of myself. And by this time, I started to catch the pattern of, okay, I have been given a belief system. I have been given frameworks for reality that tell me this is the kind of person that I need to be a good person. This is the kind of woman that I need to be a good woman. And everybody's version of what correct is based on how I can be used according to what they deem as useful. And if this is what I have been living up to so far, who the fuck even am I? And while getting to that void place of like everything that I thought was meaningful no longer has meaning, can be so psychologically violent. That is where the opportunity to begin to truly hear yourself, I think, begins. I had to deconstruct everything that I knew, everything that I trusted, everything that I thought I was, everything that I thought I understood, and say, I don't know nothing. I know Nathan about life. I know Nathan about myself. But I'm going to find out. And this time, I'm going to find out from this seat in reality, in this skin, in these bones. Nobody gets to tell me what is anymore. I am perfectly capable of perceiving reality with my own perception, and that is what I will do. So for you, here's what I will reiterate. If you can see a theme in my story, the more I removed other people's ideas of reality and other people's ideas of who I should be from my own mind, the more I was able to get in touch with my body, the more I was able to hear my own voice, the more I was able to exist in a more authentic and grounded place in my own skin. Is it hard? Oh, hell yeah, it's hard. It's the hardest thing that I have ever done. But can I tell you something else? It gets fun. It gets fun. You get to a point where you feel like the good kind of dangerous. And it feels very freeing to have the kind of inner sturdiness where you know there is nothing anybody can do to knock you off your center. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be invulnerable, but you are anchored. Now, if you see yourself in any aspect of my story, if this is resonant for you, if you are in a place where you are trying to get in touch with your inner voice, deconstructing and reconstructing aspects of your identity, I want to invite you to my new community called Woman Code. Woman Code is my private digital space where I will be doing group coaching centered on the experience of the woman's perspective, the woman's nervous system, and the resources that a woman needs to deconstruct and reconstruct her authentic identity. I think it's very important in the time that we're living in, when we can collectively heal and lean on each other's stories and lean on each other's examples to do that. I'm not against solo work. I've done it myself, and I still recommend that you do it. But there's something different that happens when you have accountability, when you have support and guidance, and when you have a safe space to discuss the things that people who are not working on the same things won't relate to. The digital doors to Woman Code will open on October 3rd, 2025. I'm going to be teaching different tenets of Woman Code between now and then. So if you are not following me on TikTok and Instagram, I would recommend to do that because I got some new hotness for y'all. Like y'all, you're really gonna want to get this. Okay, so just make sure you're following me on Instagram and TikTok. I'm so excited for the stuff I have planned to share for the launch. And like I promised in the beginning of the video, I do have something for you right now, which is a free class that I've just created. You can go to BrittanyNicole.com to get into my reprogramming 101 class right the fuck now. That is all I have for you for this episode of Pretty Brilliant. I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.